Hi, this is Mary from the Daily Sew. Do you want to learn how to sew, but you're really not sure where to begin? I got some ideas. When I teach sewing, my students start with a project. A project is a good way to learn how to sew and learn all sorts of new skills without feeling like you're practicing or you're learning. It's really easy. And when you're done, you get this huge confidence boost. You see this thing that you made with your own hands and you think, wow, if I can sew this, what else can I make? So I've laid out 4 beginning sewing projects that, when done in order, are going to take you from absolute beginner to confident beginner. Each project is going to introduce a new skill or technique, and then the projects following will build on those previous introduced skills and techniques. The projects are going to be easy enough to finish, quick enough not to feel like a task, and they're going to be challenging enough to keep you interested and to grow your skills. So if you're ready, let's go. So you should already be courageous enough to use or comfortable with your sewing machine. And if you're not, just read the manual. You want to learn first how to wind a bobbin, thread the sewing machine, and change a needle. And then look at the knobs and figure out your stitch length, how to adjust that. Sewing a straight stitch, a reverse stitch, and a zigzag stitch. If you feel that you need to do something to warm up before you dive into these projects I suggest, try sewing some cloth napkins or something very simple like that. So the first project is a crossback apron. Now, if you're a complete beginner, you're gonna think I'm crazy for suggesting this because it has 5 pieces, but they're all rectangles, so it's really easy. And my 3-part video tutorial, How to Sew the Crossback Apron, it really breaks this project down and walks you through every step. So go ahead and watch that and sew along. Now, why this project for project number 1? Here's the reasons. 1, there is no pattern, so you can jump right in, nothing holding you back. This project gets you familiar with cutting, measuring, and sewing with the seam guides on your sewing machine. These are all foundational skills that you need for any sewing project, whether that's garments, quilts, or crafts. This project will teach you how to make a patch pocket. A patch pocket is a really basic pocket that later you can apply to almost every single garment in your wardrobe and tote bags and everything else. You're going to learn a basic machine hem. This is a hem that you'll see over and over again if you continue to make garments. And you're going to learn the importance of pressing as you sew. Ironing, pressing, as you sew is so important to the success of all your sewing projects that irons really should come with sewing machines. And you're going to learn, without realizing it, how important it is to follow that seam allowance. If you are apron opposed and you don't want to sew an apron, no problem. Sew a simple tote bag and put a patch pocket on the inside. Just follow the apron tutorial for the pocket instructions and put that on the inside of your tote bag. The second project I recommend is a skirt with a gathered tier. And I recommend the tutorial by Bethany Lynn Makes for this project. There are a lot of tutorials out there for this kind of skirt, and this is one of the best. So I've put the link for this tutorial in the description below. So why this project for your second project? Well, again, you do not need a pattern, so you can just jump right in. You're going to learn how to sew a casing. And a casing is a key component for a lot of garments and curtains, but we can deal with that later. You're going to learn how to gather fabric, and believe it or not, that is a technique that you will use when sewing in shirt sleeves. You're going to get to wear something that you've made, and not everybody can say that, so that's pretty cool. And if inclined, you can add a patch pocket to that skirt using the same instructions that you did in the first project. So if you're thinking that this skirt is not your style, I do think it's important that you learn to gather fabric. If you don't want to do this skirt, maybe there's another project out there that has that kind of gathering. But if you like the skirt but not quite this style, you could change the look of that skirt by shortening that top tier and making it kind of an 80s retro vibe. You could make it longer and all black for a romantic vampire look. You could add a 3rd tier for a prairie style, and or you could make the skirt fuller for that Ralph Lauren Americana look. Also, you could make it out of ballerina tulle for a fancy dress, Halloween, or ballerina tulle for a child to have a little fairy costume. So there's lots of ways to get around this skirt style if you don't like it. So by now you should be feeling pretty comfortable with the machine. You've really come a long way. So now we're going to sew zippers. The third project is a lined pouch with a zipper opening. And I really like the open wide pouch by Noodlehead. It's free tutorial online and it is very clear. The instructions are very clearly written. Again, I'm going to put a link in the description. So why this project for number 3? You need to learn to sew a zipper. A lot of people build up fear and avoid sewing in zippers. Please don't. Zippers can be taken out just like any seam. So it's better to just go ahead and get it over with. Plus, you get to use the zipper foot on your sewing machine, so you get to learn how to change the feet on your machine. That's pretty exciting. This project also has a lining, which is a little bit of a head scratcher when you're putting it all together. But when you pull that bag out of the lining and see it all done, it's kind of like magic. I always like that part. You'll also learn to square off the bottom of a bag by sewing the side seams. It's a neat little trick, and you're going to see it over and over again if you do continue to sew. And this is a good project for using up to 3 different types of fabric. So if you're like me and you like a lot of prints, it's a fun time to use those. You can also use up larger scraps, or you could even piece all your pieces of fabric together, your scraps of fabric together, for a little patchwork pouch. So this project is really practical. It comes in 3 different sizes, and actually you can make any size you want if you just do a little bit of math. So I think you're going to want this project. I don't think you're going to want to avoid sewing this one. And if you don't want this pouch, somebody you know does. I have made this pouch for thank you gifts, teacher gifts, baby shower gifts, and sets of these pouches for graduation gifts. Everybody likes them. They're super practical. It's an easy project. You're going to like it too. Well, all right, you've come a long way. You've learned so much. We've got straight seams, hems, casings, gathers, top stitching, zippers, so much I can't even remember how much you've learned already. So let's take a really big step with the next project and learn to use a sewing pattern. The 4th project is sewing pajama bottoms. You'll have to buy a pattern for the pajamas or try the Assembly Line's free pajama pattern. I'll put a link to that and some recommended patterns in the description below. Generally, I say stick to Simplicity, McCall's, Buttrick, New Look patterns, some established pattern maker when you're first starting out. There are many independent pattern companies out there, and many are good. But I don't want you coming across one that is poorly drafted or the instructions are terrible. You just don't need that hurdle when you are starting out. It'll make you cry and give up, and I don't want that for you. I shop on Etsy for a lot of my patterns. And since pajama patterns don't change in style much, I think you could find one there for a decent price. Just look for one that is uncut and you'll know you have all the pieces. My pajama video shows how to take the shorts, the pajama shorts, and lengthen them to make them pants. You can also do the opposite, taking some pajama pants pattern and shortening it a lot to make them shorts. So why pajama bottoms? You're ready to sew with a pattern. And knowing how to use a sewing pattern, how to read a sewing pattern, is something you need to learn if you want to continue sewing garments. If you get stuck or you want a little guidance, you can watch my video, how to read a sewing pattern and how to cut fabric with a sewing pattern. Pajama shorts and pants are loose enough that you don't have to worry too much about fitting. You just have to get the general measurements right and you're good to go. I encourage you to pick a pattern that has inseam pockets, side seam pockets right on the seam there. Side seam or inseam pockets are a great little technique, easy to sew, and once you learn it here on this pajama project, you can take it with you to any project that doesn't have a pocket and has a side seam, of course. So good to know. This garment is constructed simply, so it comes together really fast. And you're going to be proud of your finished project. You're going to learn a lot. So if you don't wear pajamas, sew these out of a lightweight twill, a lightweight denim, chambray, something like that, for casual summer pants or shorts. Sweatpants are similar if you want to sew those, find a pattern and sew those, except that, know this, knit fabric is a little bit more challenging to sew than woven fabric, but you can do it. Like all pursuits, the more you sew, the better you get at it. You will make mistakes, but you will get better. Give yourself some time and some patience. I'm really hoping you like sewing. It's a great skill to have whether you dabble in it or you end up doing it a lot. You're going to be able to make something that nobody else has. You're going to be able to mend clothing that you already own. And you're going to enjoy just being creative. Besides, I need more people to sew more often because I need all those little local fabric stores to come back in business. And I need more people to talk to about sewing because, believe me, I could talk about sewing all day long. But if you have any questions about these projects that I have described in this video, please put them in the comments below and I'll be sure to reply. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.